Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today for this webinar. We're going to give folks a minute to come into the room. I'm just filling the silence so that you don't come in empty and wonder whether we've started already or whether your audio is working and that sort of thing. But we'll give people here another few seconds to make their way into the room. Numbers are continuing to grow, and I'm sure that they'll continue to grow throughout our time here. We could probably start though. So let me.
Yeah, the
Did
numbers
we?
have plateaued now, so
Is there? Okay, we have somebody else joined us though.
I'm not sure who this is.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us here today. We appreciate you spending a portion of your day with us for this important topic. I know everyone is caught up with the AI craze, and for good reason. And we're going to talk today about using AI software for patent prosecution. If you have any questions of the panel throughout the program, please feel free to put them into the Q&A box. I'll monitor them and weave them in as much as I can. And if we can't weave them in naturally to the conversation, I'll save some time at the end and see if we can get to as many questions as we can. So if you have a question, please let us know. The chat box is for you guys. If you have technical difficulties, you can reach out to Renee and her team. They'll help you. If you want to chat amongst yourselves, please feel free to use the chat box. If you want to chat specifically with the sponsor Ankar and ask a detailed question about your unique situation or something like that, you can add that to the chat box. I unfortunately don't get to monitor the chat box. Sometimes it gets pretty crazy in the chat box, which is great. So have at it. But if you want us to kick around a question with the panelists, definitely use the Q&A box. So welcome again. And what I'll do now is I'll kick this over to Renee so we can introduce the speakers. Renee.
Thanks, Jean. So on our panel today, let's start. We have Boris Welzer. He's a renowned expert in the field of intellectual property, who currently holds the position of Director of IP, pardon me, at Nexans, where he oversees the company's IP strategies, ensuring the protection and valorization of technical innovations. He also founded his own company, Welzer IP, which specializes in training, coaching, tutoring, and consulting in industrial property in April of 2025. Next, we have Clint Mihal. He's a partner with Davidson Kappel, LLC. Through his career, he has prosecuted hundreds of U.S. patent applications in multiple technology areas and has filed over 100 appeals with an exceptional win rate at the PTAB. He also has extensive experience in litigating patents, post-grant proceedings, patentability searches, and preparing infringement, validity, and freedom to operate opinions. And currently he serves as the co-chair of New York IPLA's Patent Law and Practice Committee. Next, we have Tamar Gomez, who is the co-founder of Ankar AI, the next generation end-to-end AI native IP platform. Prior to that, she spent the good part of a decade building cutting-edge AI software for enterprise and governments at Palantir and at Helsing, where in part she oversaw the IP lifecycle of innovation. Experiencing firsthand the painful process entailed in ensuring inventions were captured and patented, she decided to fix it and built Ankar. She holds a PhD in game theory and microeconomics from Imperial College of London and an MSc from HEC Paris. And last but not least, we have our moderator, Gene Quinn. He's a patent attorney and a leading commenter on patent law and innovation policy. He founded IPWatchDog in 1999 and since has twice been named one of the top 50 most influential people in IP. He's regarded as an expert on software patentability and U.S. patent procedure and has repeatedly been recognized as one of the top IP strategists in the world. So that is your panel today. Back to you, Gene.
Great. Thanks a lot, Renee. And thank you again for joining us here today. What I'd like to do, we have a lot of ground to cover, but I always like to try and give the panelists an opportunity to kind of level set as we move into the conversation. So the question is simply, what do you want the audience to have top of mind as we start to talk substantively about using AI tools for patent prosecution purposes? Tamar, how about we start with you?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Jean. I guess my main point to start with is that what we've realized through the Ankar journey and even before that is that every executive today is required to have an opinion on how AI is going to change their business. not least in intellectual property, where software tools have faced little disruption in the last decade. However, most companies struggle and firms struggle to see how they can go from actual potential to actual measurable value. And what we see at Ankar and what we'll show today is that AI tools can bring that measurable and concrete value, but that they have to be, one, specialized, two, intuitive, and three, explainable. And then we'll go through that today during the presentation.
Great. Thanks a lot, Smart. And for those in the audience, I just launched the first poll question, which if you can answer it, that'd be great, because it will give us an idea of where you're at. Are you using AI already? And it will kind of direct much of our conversation. So Boris, on to you next. Your preliminary thoughts here.
So thank you, Jean, and hi to everyone. I'm Intellectual Property Director in-house, so I don't have exactly the same feelings that people in private practice, for sure. And for in-house, we receive a lot of offer speaking about AI for IP, and it's very difficult to see within the lot of offer what could be relevant for the company, for someone in-house, and that's exactly what I want to address today.
Okay, awesome, great. Thanks a lot, Boris. And Clint, and I should also add to Clint's bio that Clint has joined us on IPWatchDog as an advisor. So he's one of the new advisory board members. So you're going to start to see a lot more Clint here, I think, with IPWatchDog. And Clint, I know you've looked at a lot of these tools and so forth, but what do you have? What's your message to the audience?
Yeah, so these tools, they've improved substantially over the last couple of years. I know more and more patent attorneys that are using them. I would say that still a large percentage are not using them, on a frequent basis. I think the biggest issue there is client buy-in, particularly for large companies. They are more of a wait and see approach, and in-house attorneys don't want to do anything that can come back to burn them later. So and as outside counsel, we can't be using these tools without client approval. And so, but I think that's going to change in the future. So I think all of us kind of have a duty to explore and understand what's out there, because at some point you're going to need these tools to best serve your clients.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, this is a revolution like we haven't seen. And if you're not starting to use them, you're going to be behind. And what we did see in the first poll question was that 59% of those in our audience are already using them to some extent, and 41% are, I guess, here to kick the tires, which is, good for you. You'll be ahead of there's still a lot of people that aren't even kicking the tires, and this is going to present a real opportunity, competitive advantage for those people who figure out how to use this in your practice and what it does very well, and how to streamline things. So this next poll question is just to see if you have an idea about what productivity gains you are already seeing for those of you who are already using them. And running away with it I have no idea. So Tamar, does this result here surprise you a little bit, or is it, kind of expected?
Super interesting. It's really expected, because I think this is exactly what we see with our customers and with our prospects and people we talk to is like, how do we actually measure the value that these tools can bring us? So like, where we see the promise, but like, where's the actual value?
Yeah. Clint, you have thoughts on that? I mean, we've talked about this, and it really does. These tools do really enhance once you figure out how to use them and the advantage that they provide.
Yeah, so I haven't used them a ton. I had one client that was a smaller client that gave me approval to use it, and actually kind of encouraged ask about them, and I used it on one project, and it was helpful for sometimes rewording language. You're kind of you're not describing necessarily the core of the invention. I think if you're just describing the core of the invention, it's something that you need to be doing, with your expertise. But if there's, extra issues, or I can't figure out the best word here, I know what the invention is, and I can't get the terminology correct, or I want to describe it in a slightly different way than a way that I did the preceding sentence, it can be very helpful for that. Because a lot of
I
times,
think it does. It streamlines a lot. And also these tools really, I think, and Boris, maybe you can comment on this. They seem to really offer a lot of ideas and thoughts that then the professional can really drill down on. And, maybe I have no idea, the people say I have no ideas because maybe these tools do two things. I think they make you better, and then they streamline things and make it faster. What say you?
According to me, testimony is that we can go quicker, in terms of patent drafting, with a close relationship with our external IP provider, for sure, but it has to be together. But when it comes of opportunity, it's like a huge no man's land to explore. And we have to be creative by asking what could be done with artificial intelligence. That's the main thing that I discovered the past months. Try to ask questions for people like Ankar, for instance, and then see what can be done thanks to their expertise.
Great. Excellent. Okay. So how about tomorrow? I know you've got a video for us to watch, and you're going to do a little bit of a demo, narrate a little bit of a demo so that we can put some meat on the bones so people can see what we're talking about. And then we can all go around the horn and talk about what we see there in these exhibits, if you will. So I'll kick it over to you tomorrow.
Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. You should see my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. So really what we want to show today is, I'm going to start with a very brief introduction of Ankar. We're an IP platform, AI powered. We develop assistants that help along the life cycle of patents, from exploration to generation to protection. But today, I really want us to focus on two concrete use cases to kind of like shed light on what actual value can be brought by AI tools. The first use case will be focused around our drafting assistant and how we improved efficiency gains from reported 30 to 80% for a Fortune 500 automotive patent engineering team. And then the second use case, I'll mainly let Boris talk about it, but it's how we helped Nexans supercharge the protection of its assets with infringement detection of its patents. So I'll start with the drafting assistant. Quick intro on that before I jump into the live tool. Here, really, we work with a Fortune 500 automotive company that files 1,000 patents per year. A lot of that was done externally, and they wanted to bring a bit of that in-house as well, and to actually empower the patent engineering teams to also draft more in-house. So we deployed our AI drafting assistant to them and help them kind of like drive these efficiency gains. So go from 30 to 40% to 80% faster in a draft, depending on how simple the invention disclosure was. One quote that I really like here is that is one of the users saying that if they had to go back to Word now, it would feel like going back to the Middle Ages. So that was rung very true to us. Without further ado, I'm going to dive into a little demo of the platform. I'm going to try and keep it short and punchy and lively, but just to kind of show you the capability of the tool. So here, what the platform does is, so let me just start. You'll see. I'm just going to share my screen again. So you'll see here, you can enter the description, the title of your invention. You can enter a set of claims. You can enter a reference patent or a number of reference patents. So that is really to help you draft in a style that is close to yours, that you're used to drafting. You can import reference signs, figures, and then you can also choose which jurisdiction you're drafting in, and as well which language you want to draft in. As an example here for the demo, we put English and French, but we support many other languages. And then you can start generating your draft. And what the tool is going to first do is going to start reformatting your claims in line with the jurisdiction that you're working in. And one thing that I wanted to show you is every time the tool generates some text, you as a user can accept it or reject it. And that comes with the principle of control. And that's something that we've embedded in our design and design of the platform is you have full control on what's generated, such that you are really the one that's producing the final specifications of your patent. Now you can also start with typically asking the tool to insert reference signs into the claims. So here, that's what I'm doing. And then the tool automatically includes these reference signs, and you can again accept the results. We also have a prompt library that you can query, where you can start generating the different sections of your specification. So here I generated the background section, and you're going to see that the background section is going to appear here in the text, and you can accept it, reject it, also ask the tool to kind of like add some elements. You can generate a summary section, and you're going to see that appear. And then also something that I wanted to mention is this part here, the central part, is really an editor. So treat it as a Word, basically. You can change your text. You can also select part of the text and ask your AI assistant to kind of elaborate on a particular paragraph, add a bit more detail, which I just asked here, and the tool will basically, it's really your co-pilot, so it'll kind of answer your command. You can also ask here to generate a list of figures or remove the references to the reference signs. And then you'll see again that it'll kind of like obey your question. You can always have, in this kind of like principle of control, you can always see what has been removed, what has been added, what are the latest changes that you've made, such that you can again accept them, refuse them, and again have full control on the tool. Here we're going to focus a bit more on the figures, because that's something that we've noticed with our users, patent attorneys, is something that takes a lot of time. Detailed description, the list of figures. So here we've uploaded a number of figures, both finalized but also hand-drawn figures. You can see here a hand-drawn figure, which has been understood and like interpreted by the tool. The tool also generates automatically reference signs that are detected in the figures and then embeds them in the text as well. So you can see here the reference signs that have been identified, and it also will identify the reference signs in a more, say, manual sketch that you might have created yourself, so a hand-drawn figure. And then you can ask, once that is done, like what are the technical terms that might need to be defined. So here we're going to move more into like the definitions part of the draft. So here we've asked the tool like what are the terms that need to be defined, and then we're going to like ask the tool basically to provide a bit more information on the specific definition in the text. So you're seeing this happen here, and you're going to basically see that we're generating. So we're starting to generate this LiDAR system reference, and we're going to ask the tool to kind of like include that definition and add that definition here. So really you can kind of like, same as if you're in a helicopter, kind of zoom in into some parts of the text, add the tool to kind of tweak things, and you're going to see here the definition of the term is going to be added very soon. So yeah. You've seen the tool here. You can also edit the reference signs. So here the reference signs have been added, and you can actually use a function which is the glossary. So in the glossary, you will have the list of all the definition and effects that are being added in the tool. You'll have all the related terms. You'll have the search as well. You can also search for specific terms and make sure that the terms are being indeed properly included in the text, and there's the right definitions, and this will automatically update as you change. So if you change a definition, it will automatically update in the reference in the full text. We also have a proofreader that helps you check for issues of antecedents and dependence, and then you can automatically add some numbering on your paragraph. Here we did a very like kind of quick whistle-stop tour of the tool, there are a lot of other features that we have, notably around like image generation, figure generation. This is kind of a beginning. And of course, once you're done with your specification, you can export it. You can also share it with your team. And that allows you to kind of like move much quicker and go much quicker from an idea, an invention to a full specification. Great.
Yeah, that's really quite impressive. I really like the aspects of the drawings. I think that that could very easily save a lot of time. Clint, your thoughts on any of that you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept of, providing additional, language for specific terms. I'm not a big user of definitions in my patent applications. I know it varies quite a bit, from attorney to attorney, depending on your field. Is there optionality with, how you can, change the descriptions of things? Because as opposed to defining something, I would, kind of say, this can include, so you have options, for having claims interpreted broader. If you want a specific definition, you can put it in an independent claim and not be limited by the definition in the spec. So I'd love to hear the optionality there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a super good question, Clint. It's actually a feature that I cut out of the demo as I was editing it yesterday, but you can absolutely kind of like ask, for instance, to broaden, like restrict your claims, add a certain definition in the independent claim, and they'll kind of like generate a version that you may want to have.
Okay, cool.
One of the things I see when I see that, I think two things jump out at me. One is this is clearly taking direction from the user, right? So I know a lot of people are worried about, well, is the AI going to be an inventor? Maybe at the end of my career, maybe, 15 years from now, but right now these tools, the good ones, are taking direction from you, and then feedback. The co-pilot aspect of this, right? I mean, so when you're going through and you're looking at these definitions, because I'm not sure I would necessarily define terms like that, but knowing that, asking it like what needs further elaboration, highlights for me, and then whether I would do it like a glossary or just use like a for example in one embodiment and in another embodiment, and that it kind of would provoke you as the users, the drafter, to realize, well, maybe more needs to go in there, about that. Because if the AI thinks it's not enough, I can predict what the Federal Circuit's going to say when they read the patent. They're going to clearly say it's not enough, So it's a stopgap, and it helps you. It draws it out of you as far as and then the part about the drawings. I mean, let's just face it, that's a pain in the neck getting all that stuff down in the first instance. So I do think this is going to save a lot of time. Boris, any thoughts from you?
And on my side, the thing is, we know that we will like save 30% of the time of drafting. It will not replace someone who is drafting, and it will not replace neither the expertise. According to me, you need to be a very high-level patent attorney to use this kind of tool efficiently. That's my main advice for everyone.
Yeah, and I continue to think the people who are going to be most at risk at losing their jobs are the folks in overseas shops who, you go to and ask for a draft, what you get back is not terribly good, but at least it starts, and then you can do something with it. This gives you, as Boris said, as a high-level patent attorney, the opportunity to direct the draft from the very beginning. And I think it'd just be better. All right. So where do we go from here? Do we have another demo or use case to show?
Yeah. What I suggest is kind of like is a quick one on just continuing on the second use case. So here we're leaving the world of drafting and we're going into the world of infringement detection. And once you have your patent portfolio, like what do you do to kind of like make the most of it and protect it? And I know it's something that few tools out there offer and do. So we wanted to make sure we talked about it with Boris, especially because we were lucky to have Boris here. And maybe I'll let you, Boris, present how IP kind of fits in the generic like product development project timeline.
Exactly. Thank you, Tama. So on our side within Nexans, but it was also the case in my previous company, we can use IP at several steps. I will not teach you today how to use IP, but the main facts are you can use IP before filing a patent to detect white spaces, to do some prior art search, and we can feel that AI tool may help us. Okay, fair enough, but it will not revolutionize because for sure we already have some tools, semantic tools that does exist, and AI will help us. But when it comes about the development stage with patent application filing, as Tamar just showed us, maybe AI will help us to save times. And according to me, when I am in-house, I don't have a look at this tool. I will have a look at how I can use artificial intelligence to communicate internally and to make the difference comparing to my competitors. And there we are looking for infringement detection. And today there is a lot of potentiality to detect infringement thanks to clients, thanks to provider, thanks to scrolling the web. But it's quite difficult for patent attorney to detect automatically or to have a first glance, a first view. And that's exactly what I was speaking with Tamar and Ankar tool. How is it possible to make a patent portfolio speak and to liaise with what is existing maybe on the internet or wherever it is? And for years, I was looking for web drone or web tool that can scroll the web for me and look at several references at the same time, just starting with a patent. And there is some web drone existing for trademark detection, trademark within an image. That does exist and that is very efficient. But for patents, it's quite difficult. And when it comes about commercialization or scale up, you've got infringement detections that can help you as intellectual property director. And I will propose you with Tamar an example of a small product. It's not small, but we will show you a short demo that's called Nexans MobiWay. And okay, it's an extract of the video. It is used for low voltage cable. It's small bobbin, as you can say, small drum. And it will become a standard in the future because it's quite very difficult for day-to-day electrician to use this kind of, low voltage cable. And according to us, we did provide a very efficient tool that can gather this bobbin together and help the electrician to do the work himself and save times, as you see on the video. It's quite a fun video, okay? And the idea was to use the patent we already filed during the techno setup, during the feasibility stage, and also when we had to improve the protection during industrialization and commercialization. So we did file patents for 5 years to cover all the small tricks around this product we just showed to you with the video Tamar just shared. And okay, it is not the best protection ever. It can be improved because sometimes you file a patent 5 years in the past without knowing what will be the final product. You know what is it? It's your daily job. But today I'm still looking about infringement that may be available on the internet. And maybe Tama, you can explain what we did and show the result. And I just spoil you, it's not a sexy result, it's an efficient result.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Boris. So the mandate, Boris came to us with a mandate, which is, these are our patents. we need to find infringing products. We know there are infringing products out there, like go and find them basically. And this is something that I think Boris was looking for a number of years to make sure that they were actually effectively protecting their portfolio. So what we did is we have an infringement detection engine, and we triggered that engine, and we generated that result for the team and for Nexans, which is basically a simple enough list of products that we identified on the internet automatically that were relevant to the patents, to Nexans's patents. So here you see, for example, patent EP43, or this is another patent, and these are the products, the images of the products. You can see a very similar product here, and then some like rationale and reasoning as to why there are key similarities with these patents, and what is the company, and finally where is the link to buy the product, whether this company themselves have patents that are potentially protecting this product, such that we provide really this kind of like high level cockpit infringement detection and protection cockpit to Nexans to be able to go and like protect and effectively commercialize their products.
And that was very interesting also, if you share again this Excel, to add the info of the company size, the company patent portfolio related to the tool, and also the way to buy this product quite quickly. And it's all done by artificial intelligence. So no human involved here. And each time now I'm sharing this Excel, everybody wants to have access to it. But when I'm speaking about everybody, it's designer, but also marketing team. It can also help marketing team to have a first glance, very quick view of what is available inside the market, and then go back to IP. So according to me, I'm like very excited to now move to the next step, maybe send cease and desist letter to some of the company we just identified, or only buy the product and compare to ours. And it's also a way to give value to IP inside your own company. And that's crazy because sometimes it's quite difficult to value your own action inside your own company.
Mm-hmm. This is very, very interesting. Clinton, you know, what I find interesting here is, you know, I know I've looked at a lot of these. I know you've looked at these tools in the past, and they've come so far over the last, you know, it's just if you were looking at this a few months ago, you know, compared to now, and then a year ago compared to now, it's like night and day.
Yeah, no, honestly, it seems fantastic. I think, you know, one of the things we always want as patent attorneys is for our clients give us money to, you know, draft patent applications, and we want to make sure they're getting value out of, you know, the patents that they get. So this is fantastic. A couple of quick questions. So when you're identifying products, is it identifying like only the ones that they think read on the claims, or just like a group of products that are close to what is claimed or described in the application?
Yeah, it's a really good question. We focus on the independent claims as a first kind of like filter, basically, because there can be a lot of noise if you look at the description of the patent. There's a lot of context there. So yeah, we focus on the claims mainly, and then we have a further tool that I didn't present, which will go into more detail and start like comparing claim by claim, feature by feature, the features of the product with the features of the claim, and like start generating a first draft of the claim chart.
Nice. So, you know, a lot of times in the US, you know, there's a pending application family. So, you know, your clients ask you to draft claims that are, you know, that are not necessarily covered by your existing claims, but, you know, can be covered in a continuation claim. Is there a feature that would allow you to see what's in your spec that could possibly be put in a claim that could be infringed?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's you're exactly going through the steps that we went through when we built the product. But yeah, that was the like next step that we were asked very quickly on, and yeah, we developed a tool to do that.
Very cool.
So, and just so I understand the where we started this with the first, you took like essentially like a claim set that was drafted or sketched by the attorney, and then started from that, and then built the application going back and forth iteratively with the attorney, but based on the attorney's claims.
Yeah, absolutely. We found basically that often attorneys want to keep control on their like they like drafting the claims. It's the intellectually challenging part of the work. It's also the where the experience comes in, and they like to have control on that and like work on that, and then kind of want to accelerate the rest, which is, as you mentioned earlier, the reference sign management, the detailed description, or like the background, which is a bit more of a pain. And so we found that's why we always show like a part of the tool where the claims are inputted, because that seems to be like a very recurring usage of the tool. But we also have an option in the tool to generate claims as well. Sometimes some people, they want to have a first pass of the claim, and then they'll edit them and they'll tweak them basically.
Yeah, great. Because I did see in the chat that there was talks about that. Yeah, I do think a lot of times attorneys like to keep dominion over the claims, and then that also kind of is further proof that the AI is not inventing. You're starting with the claims that were given to you by the attorney, which is great. And then of course, and I know Tamar, you have responded to this question a couple times in the chat already, but just so everybody hears it, because I know we're getting this question in the chat, we're getting this question in the Q&A box, is about confidentiality. What do you want to tell folks about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the question, right? It's like the capital question. And for us, so I come from a background of building military grade software. So from the get-go, confidentiality and data security was paramount, and we designed the platform in such a way that we are ensuring the highest level of data confidentiality and security. What does that mean concretely? It means that all of our customers have segregated their data is segregated. It only belongs to them and is only accessible by them. Not even our software engineers have access to the data. We operate a break the glass policy means that our engineers would have access to the log if we're authorized by the customers. But also the data is encrypted in transit and at rest. And then we have the highest level of security certifications, which are ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, which is really important in the US. And then fundamentally, final one, which is a crucial one, especially when we're working with AI tools, we do not use our customers' data for training of our own models or third-party models. So that's the key thing. And what we found is that putting all that up front when we talk to our customers and to our prospects is really like ensures and reassures on the data confidentiality and security side. And that helps us go ahead and like work, in confidence.
Okay, good. Do you have any other, Boris, do you have any thoughts on any of this, the Q&A that's just been going back and forth, the conversation between Clint and Tamar and or anything else?
Maybe something at the beginning, we did request something to help us for infringement detection, and Tamar just helped us to simplify the way a patent is written and to let it know for like patent attorney or even designers, because it's also crucial to let the people read the patent or to encourage or to engage them to read the patent. And it was definitely not my request. I don't want, as an in-house IP director, to understand what is behind, what is inside the machine. I want to see the results. And okay, that's not very fair for Ankar or for Tamar, but definitely I need something that is usable. And that is the first time that someone provided me with a list of a very limited results, only 30 results. And that's also key, not to be like with a lot of results, hundreds of results to look at, only 30 results that are sought out compared to the patent I did point as key patent within the search. And that was also key to move forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a question on the infringement identification aspect. So, one of the biggest problems with AI is obviously hallucinating, where, it's trained to give you an answer even if it doesn't have an answer. Is your tool programmed to, like, if there's just nothing out there, to come back with 0 results?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually absolutely, because we have a model which is a search model, and so it's really constrained and like configured to go and like identify results if there are some, or none if there are none. And then we basically use a number of different AI models in our engine. So there's this first kind of search model. If no results come back, like there'll be 0 results. Then we have another model which is going to rank these results or re-rank them. And that's really crucial. It's just to make sure that what we're showing to Boris, for example, like the first thing up there is what is the most relevant. And then finally, we have the final model, which is an inference model, like based on LLMs, and that is going to answer questions. And here, the way we prevent hallucination is that we force the model to have only the context of what's been inputted by the user. So say as a user, you inputted claims, you inputted an invention memo, some prior art, it will only use this context to generate its answer, if you will.
Mhm.
Great.
Okay, so we have a bunch of questions. Some of the questions I think have already come up in the demo, but maybe people join it a little bit later. So I think we could go through some of these in pretty rapid fire. But one of the questions is, will your tool create claim charts? And I know you talked a little bit about that, but can you elaborate maybe or reiterate perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely generate like claim chart drafts. We call them drafts rather than claim charts because we found that patent attorneys will always need to be checking those, adding some color, some comments, some details. But we will, the tool generates a first version of that based on what we found on this feature by feature like cut and specification and slicing and dicing, and then some first initial reasoning, definitely.
Mhm. Okay, and with respect to the infringement detection, is it based on a comparison with the claims or just general similarity?
No, it's based on a very like a comparison by the claims. I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to bore people, but basically what we do is we take the independent claim, we slice it into the features and the different characteristics, and then for each feature we compare it with the product features. And then we do this like comparison feature by feature, and then it gives us kind of an infringement score, if you will.
Okay, and maybe we can ask Boris. I think it's implied in what you've said so far, but it sounds to me like you are very happy with the list of products, right? So this is not just scattershot. These are really relevant leads, correct?
Yes, you are perfectly correct, and you did understand well. The fact is, for the past 15 years, there were some people proposing this kind of tool, slicing the claim and trying to scroll the web for us, but without any relevant result. It was relevant result with name inside the pictures, or with very clear infringement, but very literal infringement result. And for the first time in my 15 years looking for this tool, I did find very relevant products. And I can testimony that even the designer wanted to buy the product just to understand what the competitor were doing in the same field because they didn't notice this kind of product. So it was a very positive side effect, not only in terms of IP. Maybe I will never attack thanks to this infringement detection, but it's also building our own credibility internally and for the next step externally, for sure.
Mhm. So, and I think, Clint, I think this is what you were getting at, right? I could see where you would want to run that infringement detection on the claims that maybe the examiners allowed to, so for to give you an idea of how useful the claims are that you've got, and then what else you might need to be trying to get in a continuation, or whether you should even accept those claims. Is that's what you were thinking, right?
Yep, and of course, I'll try to tie everything I ever talk about back into appeals. Like if you have a rejection of your claims and you think the examiner is being kind of unreasonable, and you add additional words to those claims, you can play around with it and see, if we add this amendment in, is it still covering, these products? And if not, appeal it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's a really interesting use case, and it's one that comes to mind right since the program that we just ran earlier this week. That was, a big question is what do you take the claims that are being offered? I think all too often attorneys just take the claims. The client says, I want a patent, so they'll take whatever claims, and sometimes the claims really shouldn't be paid for. I mean, because they're just not particularly useful. They're too narrow, and they're just going to waste budget for both in issue fees and then in maintenance and annuity fees down the road. Particularly if they're not going to capture anything that's infringing, so that would be an interesting use case there, I think. We have another question here, and I know you covered this tomorrow, right off the very top, but does the drafting tool allow you to identify banks of other drafts so that it can learn a particular style?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have customers who have like swaths of previous drafts or of previously filed patents, and we use and like we train and we'll use these in this previous like database of assets to kind of help the tool kind of generate patents in the style that they have been generated in before. The other thing I'd like to add is users can also add a number of reference patents. We always say that there can be 5 IP attorneys in the room and 7 different styles. So we've realized that we can't solve for all the styles. Like we can't bake that in the tool. That's impossible. So we just let the patent attorneys like upload the style that they want to upload the patent they want to upload or the number of patents, and then we'll kind of the tool will use that as a guide fundamentally.
So Clint, that seems to me to be particularly useful because not only like with, writing in your style, but certain clients have certain specific requirements. So if you've done enough work for a client that you can say, okay, well, here's a couple good examples of what they expect, what they want, that would be particularly useful, I would think.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm always of the view that like everything that I sign, I want to be in the specific style that's mine. And sometimes having something that's not your style takes longer rewriting it than it would be to actually draft it from scratch. So that's huge, and it's actually interesting. I can pull up like a patent application or a response in my firm and know who drafted it without even like looking at the name on it, because everybody's just even if you're trained by the same person, everybody's so stylistically different. So that's huge.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Can I ask a question that I saw in the chat that I thought was a really good question?
Sure.
From James Kirsch, he asks, how does the AI tool deal with infringement by equivalence? And I think that's a fantastic
Yeah,
question.
that one caught my eye too. I mean, because that's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, and it was one that we were asked like quite often when we started working on the tool. And so we've actually we've fine-tuned our models. So we have proprietary Ankar models that are trained on case law, infringement case law, to kind of help with dealing with that, to help with like having this context basically and identifying these cases.
Good. So, and did I see you put in one of the answers to somebody in the chat that you have a module that will create drawings?
Yeah, absolutely. It's our release this month. We're pretty excited. So obviously the first step was reading drawings, understanding drawings, and then editing drawings was the second step. And now the third step is creating the drawing. So starting from a CAD file, so like a 3D prototype, or just a hand-drawn figure, or just a description, textual description. Ankar, the tool in Ankar will be able to generate like a patent finalized figure that the user can also edit, basically, which we understand from our users will help them save a lot of time.
Yeah, I would think that that's pretty special. And I saw you mentioned also, so and I only saw one person bring it up, maybe because everybody saw the answer, but I do like to ask it because it's come up in every webinar on AI tools that we've done, is about the biotech, the chemical, and does this tool handle that?
Yeah, so we very early on realized that the world of mechanical engineering and the world of bio and chemistry and pharma are very different, and that in order to support our chemical users to generate chemical drafts or bio drafts, we really needed to enrich the platform with additional data. So we've basically enriched the platform with chemical compounds, with biosequences, and then created a separate, different template for chemical and pharma drafts. So we are now able to support those very nicely with like stuff like our group managers, which are going to talk to some people out there, but maybe not everyone. But like, yeah, so we do that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to launch the last poll question as we start to wrap up here. But we have another question here about whether or not you can use different client examples separately. And I think I saw you, like, as you were going through from scratch, you can identify the patents you want the tool to use for this particular drafting project, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can identify the patterns separately. I think there was a question out there whether it was like only at the user level or it could be at the organization level, and that's something that requires like significant software infrastructure development, which we've done and invested in, which means that we have a very granular like permissions and access control, so you can give access or like generate drafts that are like or like create prompts that are available only to you, but you also can generate some that will be available to the whole organization. So we bring like full flexibility there.
Oh, that's interesting. That would be really particularly useful, I would think, for not only law firms, but companies, like to make sure that everything that they're putting out meets their specific requirements. Because that was one of the things that I always found with clients is if you're willing to ask them, every client has got, and they're willing to actually answer. Okay, so they all have what they believe to be their A+ crown jewel patents. There may not be the patent that covers the most lucrative product, but it's the one that they're really, really proud of. This nailed it. This was got an A+, and they all have them, and if you can identify them and then have people write to that standard, that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah, I mean, it's our experience as well. Like, we definitely found our clients at our companies, they have like what they call the golden nuggets or, the golden geese. But yeah.
Yeah. So we have almost everybody here says that they can see value in one of these. And I have to say, like the 8% there probably were just, yeah. Well, I won't say it. I mean, because
But let's have a chat.
there's clearly value here, right? I mean, and I think some people are probably still a little skeptical, and I think the only way to not be skeptical is to try and use it. Now, obviously, there is a piece of it, as Clint mentioned when you were talking, some of your clients still don't want you to use this. And now you'll have some clients that demand that you use these tools. And what I'm hearing over the last several months from talking to a bunch of attorneys is that more and more clients are expecting attorneys to be using some form of these tools, right? So there is starting to become that pivot where when they first hit the scene, it was like, okay, don't use them. Don't even think about using them. And if you're thinking about using them, we got to find another attorney. And now it's like more and more and more are expecting it. And honestly, they're expecting it, I think, because they're going to want to see lower prices, and I get that pushing down prices is not what patent attorneys want to hear. But I think that if you can do it and streamline it and it takes less time and you get a better product, you're going to be in a much better position to compete with those other people who are not using this. I mean, I mean, this is it's gonna do clearly one of two things, probably both. It's either gonna make your drafts better, which I mean, I can see how that happens very easily here. And then two, it's gonna make you getting to that better draft quicker. And I think there's a time savings and a much more robust application. And then add on top of that the claims that you're going to get, you can check to make sure that they're going to be valuable, that they're potentially do capture some infringement. I think that if you're not trying these tools, you are about to fall behind. I mean, because these tools, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how far these tools have come. If you haven't been paying attention over the last couple of years as they've been developing, these tools have skyrocketed in efficiency, and it's only going to continue. You know, new releases every month or every quarter, they get better and better and better. So if you're not using them yet, you are already behind and you need to catch up. I don't know. And I don't know how else to say it. Clint, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I see as being the biggest advantage of all this is I've I've worked on a number of cases over the years where you file like a few continuations, and then you're like fourth continuation. If you're like, if I just had three more words in this sentence, or like one more sentence here, this is what we meant. We just didn't describe it enough. We could draft claims that read on this product, and and I've worked on applications that weren't drafted by me that we did this, like it always happens, I mean, maybe it'll still happen. You just wish you had another sentence after the sentences that were drafted. But
no, but I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, how many times, Clint, have you picked up an office action you read what the examiner says, like, oh my God, this examiner is just a jerk. They're out to lunch, I know I've got support in the application for that. And then you go and you look at the application, you have such a clear memory of what you put in there, and then you go and you look for it, and it's like,
Yep.
2 years later, my memory wasn't quite as good as I thought it was. So you always need more. You always want more.
Especially in non-US jurisdictions that are harder on the written assertion requirement, like Europe and Japan, like having additional sentence can really save your ass.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just about at the end. I want to give everybody an opportunity to wrap up. I think this was fascinating and encouraging. I mean, who doesn't like, we're a bunch of geeks. Who doesn't like a new cool tool that helps you do what you care about so much, right? So let's go around, and what's the one thing that you hope people take away from this message? Clint, I'll let you go first, Boris second, and we'll give Tamar the final word.
I mean, my biggest takeaway is just like for the infringement, detection tool. I'd love for our clients to, either request us to be using this to help them get more value out of their patents, or have them, using it in-house, particularly, for something where, you're about to go pay the issue fees and you think your claim scope is sufficient, and you can use a tool like this and be like, you know what, there's something out there that's almost dead on, but we included an unnecessary feature in the claims. Let's file a continuation. That's the use case that I see as being awesome.
Awesome. Great. Thanks a lot, Clint. Boris.
On my side, I will say that we will save time, maybe not money, because we will use the money we will save to do something else that is more interesting for the companies. That's the massive message I want to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, particularly for well-funded startups or smaller growth companies, I mean, that are not looking to save money, they're going to do way more, and they're going to have more shots on goal, and they're going to be more successful. I mean, that's I think very clear. Great point, Boris. Thank you so much for being here. And Tamar, the final word goes to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jin. I mean, I've spoken a lot, but I wanted to reiterate. I hope today you were able to see how, with two concrete use cases, how AI tools can securely bring value and like accelerate you. I also want to add that we have a prosecution tool that helps with office action response. We're also seeing like great adoption and a lot of usage there. So if you are interested in any of these tools, if you're curious, if you want to test them, we run pilots, we want free trials. So it's like low risk, low engagement, and you can just test it out for yourself.
That's awesome. I don't know I've heard anybody else that's offered free trials. So that alone separates you guys. So so that really makes the barrier to entry, folks, here very low. You know, if you've been sitting on the sidelines, wondering, waiting, here it sounds like a good time for me to get off the sidelines and try and kick it around. So thank you so much, Tamar. Thank you, Boris. Clint, good to see you again, my friend. And thank you all for joining us here today. Good luck, Godspeed, and have fun with your AI tools. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. Bye.